Okay, so the NFL season's over. So with that, we get the off season. We're about to hit free agency. I was like, but there's gonna be a bunch of draft talk in there until we get to the draft. And right now, the hot topic is pretty much how it always is with quarterbacks. Now, I think it's a weirdly rich kind of quarterback draft where I think while there's a three at the top that everybody talking about with Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. Then you have Bo Nix, you have J.J. McCarthy. Then you have Michael Penix. I was like Spencer Rattler in there. Um, I think you got a good plethora of quarterbacks to where if you're at the top of the draft, you don't. I was like, unless you get, I was like, Caleb Williams seemed like the consensus generational quarterback that what everybody talks about. That maybe you don't have to, like they're talking about three quarterback back to back in the draft, and I just don't know if that happens. I see a lot of Caleb Williams, and I see those two. Yes, I think they'll be in the top 10, but I don't know if they go back to back. But I also just think like, hey, maybe you try to grab something cool in the first round. Maybe either work yourself back into the second round if you can, or see who just falls. I was like, with quarterback now, we're starting to see like they're really all bunched together to where you know nobody just outshines the other one. Now, with saying that, since free agency's first, you're going to get probably trades first, and with that, there's some better free agent quarterbacks that's on the loose. I was about to say, but I guess it's open, free, whatever. But let's be honest, Ryan Tannehill is really somebody that's going to probably get picked up after the draft. Or if you got like a young quarterback or something or like you already know where he's going to be. You got a young quarterback. You got to get a young quarterback so he could be bridge, or he's a backup on a playoff team or something like that. Like if he's the backup, I mean, he ain't got the money, but if he's the backup for Aaron Rodgers, that's understandable because it's like you need a legitimate backup between after that. I was like Kirk Cousins. He's coming off an Achilles injury. So I don't really even understand how people are really talking about him like that. But I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's just gonna go back to the Vikings. I was like, they don't really seem like they really want to part ways with him. Kirk doesn't really seem like he really want to go, and plus, do we really have options to go if he's hurt like that? So I was like, then everybody else is gonna get released. That was gonna probably just get released. He ain't going nowhere. Kenny Pickett probably stay on the roster just because he's cheap. So that really brings us to two quarterbacks. And also, like I think they're gonna keep Mac Jones this year and just ride out his contract and then worry about the quarterback later. To be honest, yes. Anyway, go back to the quarterback that everybody wants to talk about: Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. Now, each one has pretty much been swapped for each other. Of like places to go. It's either the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Atlanta Falcons. Now, if I was going to probably pick, I would probably going to say I'll probably go with Fields, younger, more upside, depending on your team. But even then, I'm just like, I think he had the talent to carry the team to the playoff. You're pretty much already a borderline team in the playoff for the playoff. Russell, I think that your team has to be close on the precipice to basically challenge. So let's go with Russell because I think it's easier to go with him. Pittsburgh, I was like, I think probably would fit maybe the best of the teams. Just because I was like, there's not many teams for really either one of them. It's really just I think it's just going to be like where they pick in the draft, they're going to end up. That's why they're going to probably have to trade for the quarterback. Russell Wilson also goes probably if he gets released, he's pretty much going to be on a hella cheap. So that means that you don't lose anything by bringing him in, signing him, whatever like that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect anything. So therefore, why not even give it a shot to see if he still got some juice in the tank? If it was just Sean Payne in an environment from a year ago with Hackett where it just ruined him, or if you just coach him up right or just need him to make plays. Because I was like he wasn't great last year. He was okay, but last year before that was just so bad that he looked great this year. Um, say Pittsburgh because they got two running backs. I was like their O line isn't great, but guess what? He sort of scrambles out even still at this age. I was like he can still throw a pretty good deep ball. He's good with with play break it down, and I think Pickens is a good receiver for all that. They got a solid tight end, so I think they got pieces there where it's like, okay, cool. Their defense is always there, so it's like, but he gets some juice to the offense that they didn't really have last year at all. Like Mason Rudolph was really good just because he had a risk it no biscuit type of mentality with throwing the ball. But yeah, there's really I was like him going to Atlanta. I'm like, look, if it's not really just because of his wife, there's no reason for him to go to Atlanta. Plus, they're going to the music that they're going to try to play just to keep messing with that dude. But yeah, if it's not for his wife, which maybe she don't want to go down there either, there's no reason to go down to Atlanta. I was like, unless you just like trying to find a spot to like go to. But I will say that I'm like that division. I don't care about. I was like Tampa Bay. Yes, they won, but that division is up for grabs still. The Falcons was always there in a lot of those games, and a lot of those games I was like Russell Wilson would have did better than what they got to get them wins. So the team isn't bad for Russell Wilson. I just don't see that team being that close. I was like, you don't have to go through much. That's why I like the reason I like Justin Fields there because it's a young division with Baker still young. Tampa Bay gonna end up doing a lot different with their defense. Probably go younger. I was like same with Carolina, Bryce young. I was like the team is going to be young. To be honest, the Saints is really the only old just carry along type of team, but they ain't look great this year at all. So they could be up for grabs because they like really older. I was like they wasn't dynamic as much as they should have been. And Atlanta was really there, and they really had a chance. So I'm like, if you had a better quarterback than Ritter and Heineken, which I feel like Fields is, and put come to shove, if you're not there to throw, which he showed that he could sling it a lot more toward the end of the season, he can run it, and he's not going to be the same type of runner that Ritter was. So I was like the thing is with I was like I do like Justin Fields on the Steelers. I don't know if the Steelers like him on that team because then it's like you got a really young crop of dude where it's like you got a young Justin Fields who's in the same boat really pretty much as Kenny Pickett. I was like two young guys there with the offense and playing a tougher division. They don't go well. You already seen how the receivers sort of act. Uh, like unless you just come out swinging, you got Joe Burrow returning, you got Lamar there. Cleveland was able to do well with going through four quarterbacks. I don't know. Now, the teams I don't hear them talking about, and I'm really surprised about, uh, at least for Justin Fields, I get Russell not being in the conversation for these teams. Although I was like, okay, so one of them is the Washington Commanders. I see Russell going there because I was like, they're in the spot to draft a quarterback. So that's why it'd be like, I can understand you'd be like, why would they take Justin Fields? They could take one of these quarterbacks. So let's say they take one of the quarterbacks. With Russell Wilson there, he's still trying to, he'll still be trying to get his career, staying afloat, a veteran guy or whatever that you want to put in that spot. They do have good weapons and stuff. The defense, I mean, not the defense, the division isn't. I know the Eagles and the Cowboys that have won like 11 so games there, but I was like, we're gonna see how that division goes because I was like, the Cowboys always let down, the Eagles were a disappointment, so you don't know, that could be a good opportunity. The Giants ain't nothing. So maybe they bring in Russell. That's like, okay, cool. We'll see how far we can go out the rip and see if we can compete pretty well. But guess what? If we don't, hey, there's a young quarterback sitting there. We have to throw him in instantly because if it's if it's Daniels or if it's May, and also too, Cliff Kingsbury had had success with a small quarterback, so maybe he could work a good amount of magic with Russell Wilson. And to be honest, I do think if Washington doesn't get Caleb Williams, I think they're going to take Jaden. To be honest, I think he fits with what Cliff Kingsbury's going to do more than Drake may, to be honest. So I was like, not just saying that Russell's going to be like this mentor guy, but I'm like, let him take the hits, let him deal with the stuff. If it works, it works. Cool. You can have Jaden just sit there and wait, but if it's not, as I said that, I'm like, do they do Jaden though again when everybody might be unfairly RG3? Like that's one of the reasons why Carolina really like when they were looking at Fields a while back. I was like, I knew they wasn't gonna pick Fields because he was too close to basically being Cam Newton, and nobody wanted to have that comparison for better, for good and for bad. But I was like, I wonder if they get the RG3 thing because he's skinny, he's fast, and stuff like that. I was like, I think I was like he puts more touch on the ball than RG3 did, but I was like, but the arms are really there the same. That's the only play that I could see really Russell going. Let's go with Justin Fields in Washington. I'm like, I think he's young enough to where that's like, and it's sort of the thing which what Chicago's have to figure out too as well too of like, what do you use your picks on? Do you use the picks to rebuild the team, or do you use the picks in order to get your QB? Now the same boat that almost Chicago's in, and it's a little different, but basically the same thing, is Justin Fields with Washington. I was like I said, the division could be up for grab. They got their offensive line is not that great, but unlike Sam Howell, he could get out the way a lot better. Don't get me wrong, Justin Fields will take sacks, but he's able to at least get out of some of those sacks. I was like, but like I said, you got good receivers, you got good running backs, so you have a better overall team than he has. So I'm like, you get Justin Fields, maybe that top 2 pick, maybe you use that pick on something on defense. You know, maybe you do that for the offensive line. But now you get to do a lot more stuff. Hell, maybe now if you over him, say you trade for Justin Fields early before the draft starts. Guess what? Now you trade down a little bit, but you get more picks. You know, because now you're like, okay, you know what? We're gonna roll with Justin Fields. These other quarterbacks aren't really that. We didn't get Caleb, so these other quarterbacks we don't see them like that. Hey, we're going to just pick up more picks, build the rest of the team. Maybe I'll take a pick later on and, because I was like, look, everybody needs to take another quarterback. You don't know how these quarterbacks are going to do nowadays. So just to go ahead and take another one. So maybe that's the plan. And that's why I can see with Washington. I'm like, I guess they're not going to do it. But I can see them doing it. I don't think it's a bad strategy to do. They're just up that high to get a quarterback, and everybody tells you need to get a quarterback, and that's what everybody does just because they just feel like they got to. But I'm also kind of like, why can't you do what the Detroit Lions did? I was like, did they think that Goff was going to resurrect his career the way he did? Probably not, but he was a quarterback that you got, but you were able to fill out the rest of the team in order to either fully evaluate Goff, or if you had to let him go, you got wiggle room to do it. Now you're in a really good spot. So I'm just saying you can work your magic with this, Chicago or Washington. Now these two are really to just Justin Fields, no Russell Wilson. Is the Oakland Raiders and the Denver Broncos. Obviously, Russell can't go to Denver or stay with Denver. I mean, unless something crazy happens. And I doubt he's going to go to Oakland. That just doesn't. Now, the reason I say Justin Fields to Oakland is because, one, you got a defensive head coach. Most of the time, defensive head coach always pick up the quarterback that got the athletic talent to where they don't have to worry about that as much because it's like, cool, he's going to find a way to get us up and down the field and maybe don't just throw the ball recklessly. But also, too, I think that I was like, I don't really see them keeping Devontae Adams, but I think they just got a young enough team that he could go down there and he could play without really any pressure or any of the spotlight. And this sort of goes with like Denver too, in sort of that case. And cause I was I like all the other teams, like Atlanta was like it's in the eye, Washington in the eye, just sort of because of the rest of the team that I was like the division team that they play. Whereas like Oakland, you got Kansas City there. Nobody's looking at you because we all being like, oh, the Chiefs gonna take over again. I was like Jim Harbaugh coming to the Chargers with Herbert. Nobody's gonna be watching you like until you start making noise. Nobody gonna watch you. Whereas like Atlanta, they was right there. They were being watched. They could have had a division. You playing against the Saints and Derek Carr, Tampa Bay, they're division winners. I was like, it's not that. I was like, I'm not trying to make it like glorify like they the junk down there, but it's like, but there's a little bit more spotlight there. Pittsburgh Steelers, they're gonna be eyes on you the whole time. Washington, you play in the same division with Eagles and Cowboys, so you're gonna have that on there quite a bit. Look, I was like, we don't really care about when you match up against the Kansas City Chiefs unless you beat them. So therefore, I'm like, but I think that this young down there to where it's like he could build himself up at a pace that doesn't have all the pressure of like, oh man, he signed a 2-year deal. He got to hurry up and get the 2-year deal. Then they're not in the spot to really get a quarterback that's going to really threaten your, your spot as what Washington could do, or with or like what Pittsburgh's trying to do because like they're looking for a quarterback. Um, I think I was like Atlanta. I think they'll go veteran just because I don't think they want to try to go through like Ritter. He was a 3rd-round pick. I don't think they want to do that route again. But yeah, I just think that the Raiders they're just doing a rebuild. So I'm like, what's better to rebuild than a reclamation project kind of thing? Denver Broncos. That's interesting, just because Sean Payton there, and it's like, okay, cool. Do you want? Cause I'm like, Sean Payton seemed like the guy that's like, you should pick somebody like Justin Fields to be your quarterback. You're going to probably end up picking somebody like J.J. McCarthy. That's what you're going to do. Same kind of like how like to me like with Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly, who had some people like Dennis Dixon, Marcus Mariota, and all them other like fast quarterbacks, was like, hey, Nick Foles, that's what I'm gonna do. And it's like, oh, okay. Uh, and he had a couple of Blaine Gabbert, like like quarterbacks where it's just like, well, why don't you pick one for more upside and more talent? Nah, my system. It's like, okay, but I was like, they got Cortland Sutton, top notch receiver. Jerry Jeudy, he's there, he's all right. Um, but I was like, but I also think that the pressure will be too much on winning for Justin Fields to go there. Almost like Pittsburgh. That is just like you're going there and you're really there to be the savior instead of can I was like, yes, you want like every athlete sort of wants that of being like, yeah, that's me, but you also need to be in the spot of like, yeah, I need to also just prove that I'm a quarterback that's worth staying in the league, being a starter, and I could be a franchise person, like all levels. And I was like, Denver is an interesting one because of the offensive talent now that Sean Payton like he's gonna take fully over. But will he be allowed to grow as he needs to be without it being like Sean Payton mad at him for doing some stuff? But if I was like, so if I'm betting, I was like, so if I was Justin Fields, if I was him and he got to choose, I say Atlanta or the Raiders. That's what I think. That's what I think. If I was if a one big team to me should try to go after him, I think it should be someone like Washington because they could keep their picks and they could keep their quarterback and all the other stuff. But I was like, and I think and him with Cliff, I think would be like, what can you do if Murray was basically a foot taller? Where do I think he might end up going? I was like, if he is, there might be some shock team, but I think it might be the Raiders. I think they might try to get him for a 2nd-round pick and try to build a team. Russell Wilson, I think if he let go, I was like, I think Pittsburgh probably is a spot where, cause I think the general manager would pick that. Not Tomlin. I think it's gonna be the general manager that goes there. A team that should take him. I want to say the Falcons seem like they would just because it'd be exciting, at least from the standpoint I think of like Arthur Blank would think that's exciting. Um, yeah, but I was like, we'll see. Justin Fields gonna have a lot of options, and I think I'd be looking at things from a roster building than an upside thing than anything. And sometimes that's not how they think. But anyway, where do you think each one of them going? Is there a team that you think that he could go to that I'm not seeing that maybe like cause we don't maybe somebody just like he's available, my quarterback ain't nothing, peace out, whatever. I don't know, let me know. I was like, until then, more NFL news.